What up, Perps? Kid Kobe's back in effect. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here? Repping America, the center, and common sense. And it being Thanksgiving, I want to give a big thanks to everybody who has tuned in over the years. Love y'all. I really appreciate it. I'm just trying to get a message out. I'm not really trying to sway people right or left. I'm trying to sway people to the middle. You know, the compromise. That's what it's all about. In this life, you have to compromise. You know, life is a compromise. You know, none of us like to really go to work, but that's what you do to get money, so you can buy the things and do the things that you do like. You know, it's that kind of thought process that Purple State Party was founded on. Common sense. Let's get to it. So recently, apparently, Afghan national drove across the country from Washington State to Washington, D.C., and he shot a couple of National Guardsmen. I guess he was upset about the guard being deployed there. Look, I get it. You know, it seems like overreach by Trump to send the guard in, but let's be honest. You know, crime is spiraling. It's not the amount of crime, it's the type of crime. It's where it's happening, you know. Whether you agree with it or not, you know, Sarah Beckstrom, 20 years old, died from being shot by this man. And a 24-year-old Andrew Wolf is fighting for his life right now. You know, these are young people, prime of their life, you know, just getting started. And they're taken out by some nut job. And what else could he be? I mean, a sane person does not drive from Washington State all the way across the country just to ambush some National Guardsmen because he disagrees with that policy. But unfortunately, that's what's being preached and now practiced in this country. And a lot of it goes to the media. You know, they want to whip you up. They want those headlines. They want those anti-Trump sentiments to be out there because that's what people want to read. People want to get on the comment section. Trump's a bad man. He's a fat man. He's just a that and all of that. But the truth of the matter is these people were just doing their job. You know, at worst, they were there cleaning up. They were patrolling the streets. You know, I agree or disagree with it. It wasn't like they were there trying to, you know, sway the vote or anything. They were just there. They were just deployed to try to help out. You know, and that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's what Trump with the ICE agents and the National Guard, it's just trying to help. We've spiraled. Yeah, our country has spiraled. Our cities have spiraled into a doom cycle. And if we don't do something, it's only going to get worse. Things don't magically get better, do they? Well, speaking of Trump, we all know Trump called Waltz, you know, the former VP hopeful, the R word. Whatever. It's a medical term, but whatever. You know, I just want Trump to stop giving the media sound bites so they can vilify him over. You know, stick to the facts and logic. We know what works and what doesn't, so highlight that. You know, the lefts, with all their reforms, only help criminals, illegal aliens, unions, and of course, mostly themselves. You know, they're appealing to young people whose lack of experience makes them think that bad ideas might work. That's what he should stick to. Not name calling and all of that. We really don't need that. I disagree with him on that. You know, there are ways of saying that what Waltz believes is stupid without giving the media yet another bullet to put in the chamber and fire at you. You know, they do it to themselves. The New York Times recently published a lengthy report called Two Men, One Identity. They both paid the price on the nightmarish plight of a Minnesota man, Daniel Clover, whose identity was reportedly stolen by an illegal immigrant from Guatemala. You know, this guy, Daniel Culver, he has endured years of IRS fines and even wage garnishments as an illegal alien assumed his identity and earned income in other states that pushed the real Culver into the improper tax bracket. You know, this guy's filing his taxes like a law-abiding citizen, and the IRS is like, whoa, you owe us a lot more. And he's like, no, I don't. Because illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. There are lots of crimes beyond just sneaking into our country. You know, they're using stolen identities. A lot of them have gone into drug dealing. A lot of them are involved in human trafficking. I mean, that it's not to say that all of them are, but, you know, the people who aren't are the people who come to the country illegally and then act on their best behavior. I mean, that's pretty simple. This guy, this illegal immigrant, Romeo Perez Bravo, had several identities over the decades. He came into this country and was deported in 2005, 2008, and 2009. He racked up several drunk driving charges, assault charges. And then in 2022, he struck and killed a man who was riding with his granddaughter on a motorized tricycle. So this grandfather is killed in front of his granddaughter by somebody who shouldn't have even been in this country, somebody who was not demonstrating their best behavior, you know? And Culver, the real Culver, you know, had to spend years trying to clear his name. And eventually, you know, they caught this Bravo kid or guy, whatever. I think he's a man now. Charged him with aggravated identity theft, false representation of a social security number. And he was held in detention for 6 weeks before, again, he was let go. And that led to this accident. You know? And what makes this worse is that the New York Times tries to frame it as though both of these people were a victim. No, one was a criminal, one was a victim. You know, Jim Banks he's a senator, Republican senator from Indiana, said, Democrats' open border let illegal aliens steal our jobs and identities. Americans are paying the price, and the New York Times is painting the criminal illegal as a victim. This illegal alien stole a hardworking American's identity and upended his life for years. But the New York Times portrays this guy as the true victim. The New York Times defended this by saying, oh, we don't want to politicize things. What the F? Come on. That's all you do is politicize things at the New York Times. But this, no, you don't want to do this. Imagine your life. If all of a sudden you were receiving wage garnishments from the IRS and you had no idea why. You had no idea where this income was coming. And now you have to fight. It's up to you to fight it, to clear your own name. You're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty, and you must prove your innocence. And that's because somebody came across the border and for a few $100 bought an identity that had been stolen off the internet, more than likely. It's ridiculous. We need to face the facts that a lot of the people who came across the border are not here with good intentions. They simply aren't. I do not think it's good intentions to purchase fake IDs so you could legally work in this country. You then are legitimately taking jobs away from Americans. And I don't want to hear this stuff, Americans won't do that work. That's bullshit. Americans will do the work, okay? But if you can get somebody in who's a little bit sketchy, you can get them for cheaper. Yes, that's on the business owners or the owners of the farms or whatever you want to talk about. Yes, I do believe that these people should be prosecuted. I think that we should upgrade and insist that things like Real ID get used. You know, we have to have Real ID here in California because our governor gave driver's licenses to illegal aliens on suspect documentation. So now I have to go to the DMV and get a Real ID. I think we should really up the penalties for hiring these people. We should put the onus on these companies to make sure that ID that you're getting is real and belongs to the person who's presenting it. Not looking at a person saying, well, if I pay you a little less, I can give you a job, put a little more money in my pocket. Because that's what we're allowing. Both sides of the coin. The illegal who presents the documents and the people who accept the documents should be on the hook. It's ridiculous. And here's another one. A sheriff slams law enforcement agencies for releasing illegal immigrant who allegedly hit an Ohio nurse. Another young person whose life has been upended. This person was a nurse and a volunteer cheerleading coach. Struck head on by this guy, Johan, an illegal immigrant from Guatemala, who has a criminal history. He was on like his fourth DUI, and they just kept letting him go. He was deported once in 2019, but he just came back sometime around 2023, 2022. He was charged with assault in Cincinnati. That same year, he was arrested and charged with drunk driving, and he was released. and then he just disappears. In 2024, he was arrested twice for drunk driving. The sheriff was quoted as saying, "This low-life piece of shit named Johan, who has been arrested 4 times for DUIs. He had alcohol in the car. He had to be cut out of the car. He went to the hospital, and you know who pays for that? Us. It's not his first time. He's used to it. He was just going to be in the wind. Not this time. We waited and then turned him over to ICE." Yeah. The nurse who was hit, spinal injuries, broken wrist, broken ankle. Not to mention not being able to work. 27 years old. Working as an RN, saving people's lives. And now she's hospitalized. And as the sheriff points out, Johan doesn't care. You look at his mugshot and he has a smirk on his face. Well, not anymore. He's going to prison. And then he's going to be deported. And he'll probably try to sneak back in again. And that's why we need to be serious about our border security. If we deport people, we don't need them coming right back. And causing this, yes, there are American citizens out there that have 4 DUIs. There are American citizens who will plow into a car head on. That's not the point. The point is these people are coming here and not acting on their best behavior. These people shouldn't have been here. This particular accident shouldn't have happened. But it highlights the fact that even though this person was in the country illegally, the police and the county, city, whatever, release him. They don't want him going to jail and being deported. Why? What is wrong with these people's thinking? If you are here illegally, keep to your best behavior. That's about it. So recently we had another train attack. A young lady, Bethany McGee, McGee, 26 years old. She was set on fire by a fucking homeless man. This homeless man was in jail for knocking out a nurse, or a social worker at a mental facility. He was released back onto the streets, where he went out, purchased gasoline, put it into a bottle, poured it on a woman, lit her on fire, and then screamed, "Burn, bitch, burn." This guy was out on just released by yet another liberal judge in Chicago, who was literally quoted as saying, "This is what Cook County Judge Teresa Molina Gonzalez said. I can't keep everyone in jail because the state attorney wants me to." Okay, this guy had 70 arrests. He knocks out a social worker, knocks the person unconscious, is placed on an ankle monitor. That ankle monitor says that he has gone into areas where he was not supposed to go. He was missing curfew, and instead of picking him up, they let him roam the streets so he could light this girl on fire. This girl, in the prime of her life, was doused in gasoline and set on fire by a guy who had been arrested 70 times. When is enough is enough? When are we going to start realizing that some people are never going to change? They're never going to become upstanding citizens. That's who they are, whether through drug use, mental problems, whatever it is. But no, we want to continually, not we, I shouldn't say we, fuck that. It's not we, it's the left. Okay, it is the left that has these crazy ideas that a guy who's been arrested 70 times will change his way at the age of 50. And what's the result? He burned somebody. Look at Sacramento. Sacramento, sheriff slams mental health diversion after bank robber strikes again. This was passed in 2018. SB 215, Senate bill. That's what that means. Not voted on. Senate bill was created to extend relief to people who say their mental illness contributed to their decision to commit a crime. Any mental illness listed in the DSM-5, which is their little handbook, is qualified for a diversion program, with the only exceptions being antisocial personality disorder and pedophilia. Yes, some things, are murder, manslaughter, rape, sexual abuse of children. Those things are exempt. But under this program, the parents who beat a 1-year-old baby girl to death and another couple who beat a 20-month-year-old to death, they're free. They say, oh no, I must have been crazy. We diverted them. They are now free to walk among us, get jobs in schools, and to coach. They've changed that. But almost every single prisoner is looking for ways to claim some sort of mental issue. This is a great example. This guy said that the reason he robbed banks was because he was mentally ill. His name was Darren Campbell. He walked into a credit union and made off with $2,400. Earlier in the year, he had been granted mental health diversion for previous crimes. He had a history of armed robbery, reckless driving, and psychiatrists have described him as a high risk to public safety. As the Sacramento sheriffs wrote, less than a year later, he's back to robbing banks. That's the result of terrible laws, and it's exactly what's happening when accountability gets replaced with excuses. California has a long history of this. We try to pass laws to allow people second chances. But that's where we need to draw the line. Once you've gone past your fourth chance, you're out. That's why the 3 strikes law makes so much sense. Maybe we need to modify the 3 strikes law so that we don't just mass incarcerate people. But again, think about it. Think about it. The person talking to you right now got 1 strike and cleaned up his act because I knew what awaited me if I didn't. If you can't see what your future brings after 2 strikes, well, what the heck? What are we doing? We are making up excuses for people's bad behavior because at the end of the day, the leftists out there know that the more chaos that's on the streets, the more likely we are to see more and more control to government. Well, government is not the answer. It isn't. Not here in California. They refuse to do what we want. We want them to enforce the law and incarcerate people, especially incarcerate people who beat their kids to death, especially incarcerate people with 70 arrests, 9 felonies. That guy who set that girl on fire had something like 9 felonies. Why is he walking the streets? Common sense will tell you he shouldn't be walking the streets. It's nutty. It's nutty. I'm about to bring you a really nutty one now. So there was this guy, John Booth. He's from England. And he came over to visit some friends in Florida. And he posted a picture on LinkedIn of him really awkwardly holding a shotgun. I hope he wasn't firing that shotgun because that stance he had was ridiculous. When he got back to the UK, he was visited by the police who said, "Whoa, we got a problem with your social media post." And he said, "Hey, look, I took that picture in Florida." England then sent the police back to his house and arrested him for different charges, including possession of a weapon. He was in Florida when he was firing the shotgun. They arrested him because he posted a picture of himself holding a shotgun. Eventually, the charges got dropped when they realized that this is kind of ridiculous. He wasn't even in our country when he did it. But they still arrested him for a social media post, of which they never disclosed. That's the world that they are building over there. A world of fearful people that are so scared, they're even scared of a man holding a shotgun in a picture. A picture. You ever have that? You ever get freaked out when you were flipping through a textbook or something, and there'd be like a gross picture? For me, it was always like some sort of gross insect. You'd be like, ugh, and then you realize it's just printed on a piece of paper. It ain't real, right? Are you scared of sharks in the bathtub? Because that's what England is becoming. That's our future, because for some damn reason, the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of this planet, has decided that they are going to follow what Europe does, even when Europe shows that it's a disaster. But imagine that. Imagine that. And imagine this. Mendami. He's going to take over in New York, right? They have a new bill that he's going to sign that will increase council member salaries from $148,000 to $172,000. He's going to go up to over $300,000. He's getting a pay raise before he even does a single job. If passed, which it will be, they are going to get a 16% raise. Meanwhile, they're going to tax every rich person and give out free groceries and free buses. And their main mantra is affordability. What about accountability? You guys are taking raises that far exceed what people make. I mean, going from $148,000 to $72,000, right? That's damn near $30,000 a year. That's over $20,000. Their raise is more than most people make. Meanwhile, they're going to talk about affordability. Right. And, as a side note, Mandami laughs off criticism that his tax hike proposals will compel New Yorkers to flee. No, a lot of people in New York will stay. They'll figure out ways to get around these taxes. These businesses will. But even if he successfully taxes these people, he is going to piss that money down a rat hole. Like I've always said, look, do your accounting. Figure out where money is being wasted. Tighten the purse string. Stop giving yourself $20,000 raises. Then you could raise my taxes. Stop pissing it away on crack pipes and other mindless dreams that you have, like they did in California with the bullet train. They want to raise taxes and do mansion taxes and things like that. Well, I tell you what, before you vote for that, before you support that, you might want to think about what your retirement's going to look like when they're taxing your 401k, they're taxing your property, they're taxing your inheritance, they're taxing every damn dollar they can get. And then they're pissing it down a rat hole, but you needed that money to survive. The goal of everybody should be a comfortable retirement. And these kind of proposals will not help with that at all. They will not. It's already happening in the UK. And think about it. The mansion tax, it applies to property worth over a certain amount, right? Well, how much is your stuff going to be worth? Are you going to someday just hit that and they're going to be like, well, hey, as house prices go up, more and more people are going to get hit with the mansion tax or whatever tax it is? This de-incentivizes. It's funny how the left incentivizes homelessness and drug use and illegal immigration and generally all around bad behavior. They incentivize it. They say, hey, we've got cash for you. We've got excuses for you. Blah, 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 blah. But then they de-incentivize people working hard, people creating new products, creating new industries, creating new ways of doing things. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, myself included, have found myself in this, where I work hard, I get a raise, I get a promotion, but because of tax brackets, I'm making the same. What kind of incentive is that? But meanwhile, the guy who wants to just smoke meth all day, he's getting free shit. He gets to live in California for free. He gets to live on the fucking beach for free. California, home of the highest and lowest real estate prices in the world. You can just pitch a tent on the beach or in the forest. Camp out, do whatever you want, set a fire, we don't care. But if you want to follow the rules and be a law-abiding, upstanding citizen, we are going to F you every way we can. That is what the left is building for us. It is the left. You could have all the complaints you want about the right, and I'll probably agree with them. But the right is not attacking our retirement and our everyday way of life. They simply are not. So, it's Thanksgiving weekend. My Thanksgiving was pretty meh. I find it hard to be around my brother anymore. Whatever. I don't want to get off on that tangent. I'm thankful for America and what America tries to stand for. And the world should be thankful for America. Our contributions to the world are far too numerous to name. Inventions, interventions, intelligence. I mean, we propped up Europe during 2 conflicts. We fought the Soviet power. We stand in the way of Chinese conquest. We were the ones who set and expedited the COVID vaccine, for good or bad. whether you disagree with it or whatever. We're the ones who funneled the money in, got the shit done. We may have also started it, but that's just a side note, and I don't want to get into it. We have sent billions of our hard-earned tax dollars to aid countries across the globe. Our young men and women volunteer to protect the world. We are what stands between the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians. Us and a handful of allies, Israel being tops among them. Without us, honestly, the forces of evil would surely prevail. I don't think that's even in doubt. We are the biggest good guy on the planet right now. But yet, evil might end up winning. Because America, at least on our coast, our east and west coast, are turning into the new Rome. Decadent, sluggish, consumed by consuming. Lusting for clicks and views, never mind the substance or lack thereof. Vanity is our new currency. As Roger Waters once said, we're amused to death. We are obsessed with saving the world despite it being suicidal to our country. We let people just flow into this country for the hope of a better life, not ever once considering the consequences. We try so hard to be patient with all of the bad guys of the world. And what does it get us? More bad guys. But yeah, that's what we do. Our rulers have morphed into a modern day Caligula, fucking everything and everybody. Right and left. Right and left. They're not doing what we need them to do. I think Trump is trying, but at the same time, he continually alienates people. Instead of trying to bring people to the middle, Trump has that ability. Trump could stand in the middle if he'd like, but he's not. The left, meanwhile, they are continuing to do what they have been doing for decades now, brainwashing the youth. Climate change got boring, blocking roads and defacing art backfired, so they switched. Now they brainwash guilty white people into believing that illegal immigration is a right, that socialism will work, and that free Palestine means something. They justify harassing Jewish students. They justify burning down the cities over some criminal who contributed to his own death. That's really great. We watch as our people burn our cities and tear down common sense. All the while, the wolves are at the gate, licking their chops. That's not hyperbole. That's what it is. The bad guys out there are waiting for us to fall. And we're going to fall by using the same methods that fucked up other countries. Socialism. What's going on in Europe with like social media crackdowns where you're not allowed to say things, where you have to watch every opinion that you post because they might arrest you for posting a picture of yourself holding a gun. You know what? That reminds me of what I've seen recently from Instagram, where it's easier to report people with a gun than it is people perving on children. And if somebody does get caught perving on children, Instagram, Facebook, they give you 17 strikes. It's ridiculous. An internal study by Facebook was started and immediately canceled when they found out that people spending as little as a week away from social media started to report better mental health. They want us angry, stupid, depressed, sluggish. They don't want us rising up. That's why they have us have the young people rising up against ICE and rising up in defense of Palestine. Because they don't want anybody ever to notice and stop and say, hey, wait a minute. Our rulers are the problem. Gavin Newsom is our problem. Tim Walz, Pritzker, blah, blah, blah. You can even say Greg. Let's throw Greg Abbott in there. Banning abortion. What's the point of that? Our leaders are not doing what we need. Our country is turning into ancient Rome that got lazy and took their eye off the ball and was swallowed by the barbarians. You know, we need people on the wall with metaphoric rifles and rockets ready to repel the invaders, ready to stand firm for common sense, to stand firm for the grinders, the hard workers, the average American just trying to make it by day to their retirement when they can enjoy it. We need to have somebody to repel these people. And at the same time, you have to watch your back from the backstabbing traitors. I'll tell you right now, I'll be on that wall. That's what I'm doing here. I'm laying the wall down and saying enough is enough. We need to hold these leaders accountable. We need actual leadership. We need common sense, and we need solutions, not feel-good sentiments. The playtime is over. America needs to get back on track. We need it, and the world needs it. And I'll tell you, I'm right there on the front line. I lead from the front. I'm Kid Copious. I'm Purple State Party. And so are you. Love one another. Keep on grinding. And you got to release that anger. Just dance it out.